What Zelda games could benefit the most from a remake? Zelda is a series that has gotten a lot of remasters, but really hasn't seen much for remakes. The only real remake we've seen was Link's Awakening on the Switch, but besides that we've just got a bunch of remasters. So since this year is Zelda's 40th anniversary, and whether we get something or not, I just want to talk about what games could benefit the most from just a full ground-up remake. So starting with the original Legend of Zelda, I don't think it really needs a remake. It's a very simple game, it's a very open game for what it is. Not really many instructions, not too much variety, and it did basically set the formula for the Zelda series. With that being said, I don't really think we need a remake of this. I don't think that would really make much sense. It's very much a product of its time, and there are reasons to go back to it. I'm not personally the biggest fan of it, but it's just one of those games that even if you made the controls better, if you just updated the graphics, I feel like that wouldn't really do much for it. I think it's good where it is right now. Now, for Zelda II, I think this game could actually use a remake. I think it would be pretty cool to see this remade because it's a game that has a lot of flaws. There's people who really love it and that's fine, but most people, especially people who didn't grow up with it, kind of bounce right off it just because it's a very difficult game. It's very punishing. It doesn't feel particularly good to play, especially the combat. It's just very inaccurate, but there are things to like about it. The music is good. It has an interesting concept with the side-scrolling sections, even though that's not my favorite part. And it's something that could probably be a very solid game if it just had better controls, better quality of life features, better combat. So will we ever get a remake of this? I highly doubt it, but you know what? That would actually be pretty cool. Now next up is A Link to the Past, and I'm just gonna say this does not need a remake. We got A Link Between Worlds, which I know was a new game, but it's basically what A Link to the Past remake would look like. And listen, A Link to the Past is still a great game now, unlike the NES Zeldas, which I think have aged kind of poorly. A Link to the Past has aged pretty flawlessly for the most part. Now, is it perfect? No, like there's not really many SNES games that still have like a perfect UI, like there's still gonna be quirks there, but it's such a minor thing, and the game still looks really good. Like I really like the 16-bit graphics. It plays fine, you have good movement, combat feels perfectly fine. I just don't think a remake is necessary for this. Ocarina of Time. So we did get a remaster of this on the 3DS. It was not a remake, and I think the remaster is the definitive way to play the game. I think a lot of people who prefer the original are probably doing that for nostalgia. I'm sure there's some things they prefer about the original, but I think objectively, the 3DS version is better, just because it's pretty much the same game, just with better controls and graphics. But I really think this could use a remake. So Ocarina of Time is the best game of all time for a lot of people. It's my favorite Zelda game. It's many people's favorite Zelda game. And while the N64 version is perfectly playable, then the 3DS version is even better. I just think it would be cool to see like a 4K version of this. I'd like to see a from the ground up remake of this version of Hyrule. Maybe some more side quests, maybe some extra content, updated versions of all the classic songs. I always like hearing those in remakes. It doesn't need a remake because, like I said, both versions are completely playable, and the N64 version is still playable on Switch Online. So it's not like we have to get this on the Switch, but it is something that I think would be really cool to see. I know a lot of people hate quote-unquote remake culture, but I think remakes can be a good way to introduce a new generation to an older game, or just improve what's already a great game. A lot of people may have trouble going back to the original game, or they may not have a 3DS. And I don't think that's something we should shame them for, because the game is clunky compared to modern games. No, I don't think that brings it down, because it is just a part of it. I think even if you compare the original Ocarina of Time to many games nowadays, or most games nowadays, I should say, it's still just a better video game. It doesn't have better graphics, doesn't have better controls, but the game itself is just a masterpiece. And we've really seen how modern remakes can just improve an already fantastic game. Like, look at Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4, those remakes. Resident Evil 3 is a different story, but they took the original and really respected it. Now, I know there's controversy. I know a lot of people have their problems with those games, and no matter what Nintendo does, if they make an Ocarina of Time remake, people will have problems with it, just because some people are simply not open to liking another version better. Like, some people will always prefer the original, but I think it would be a really good way to hold Zelda fans over for a few years until we get the next 3D game. And then for Majora's Mask, same exact thing as Ocarina of Time. Now, if we got like a collection, like a remade collection of both of them, that would be fantastic. I don't think that would happen. But unlike with Ocarina of Time, where I feel like the 3DS version is, for the most part, agreed to be the better version, Majora's Mask 3D, a lot of people do not like better, and it is a lot more understandable. Now, I don't think it's a bad game. I think Majora's Mask 3D is still a fantastic way to play the game, but there definitely are things that the N64 version did better. And Majora's Mask, I feel like, is a very underrated game, because a lot of people give all the attention to Ocarina of Time, but Majora's Mask, even though I don't think it's as good as Ocarina of Time, still a really great game, and it's probably before Breath of the Wild, the deepest game in terms of side quests. There's just so much to do, and a remake obviously would look a lot better. It would feel better to play, and could take the good from the 3DS remaster and remove some of the issues with the 3DS remaster. The Oracle games. So I think these games at some point are getting remade. I'd be very surprised if we just don't get a remake of them at any point, because these are very good games, but they are very limited by the Game Boy hardware, or the Game Boy Color hardware. One of the most annoying things when you really go back to these games, or the original Link's Awakening, is just having to constantly go to your inventory and switch because you only have like the limited buttons. It gets very annoying. Now, is that a nitpick? Maybe a little bit, but we saw with the Link's Awakening remake that 2D games, like the 2D Zelda games, could really benefit from it. Like I personally like the art style. I like the toy art style of Link's Awakening and later Echoes of Wisdom. Now, I'm not saying they have to do that. I wouldn't mind it, but basically, like, it was a very faithful remake, and it's a game with pretty minimal flaws, in my opinion. Like, I think it was almost a perfect remake, like, compared to the original. Like, I can't really think of many issues. So for the Oracle games, it's pretty much all they would need to do. And obviously, there's 2 games there, so I would hope Nintendo wouldn't charge like $70 for both them individually, and you get the extra content from both games, from beating both games. I think these are 2 of the most underrated games in the series. And besides Ocarina of Time, I think these are the games that deserve a remake the most. Maybe even more so, honestly. Also, I just want to say I'm not going to go over any games that have been remastered in like the past couple generations, like no Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, for obvious reasons. I don't think a remake is necessary for any of those, and the remasters are still perfectly fine to play today. So with that being said, let's move on to our next game, or next 2 games, I should say, just get these out of the way. 4 Swords and 4 Swords Adventures. So 4 Swords, the Game Boy Advance version, is on Switch Online. I believe it has online connectivity, and I just don't think it's a great game, personally. I think it's fine, but I don't know, it's just not something that's ever been that interesting to me. I like that we do have a better version of it on Switch now. Don't think it needs a remake at all, and I think the Switch version is perfectly fine. Same for 4 Swords Adventures. I don't believe we have it on Switch Online, but pretty much the same thing goes. I think a Switch Online version would be like perfectly sufficient for it. Now for the Minish Cap, on the other hand, that probably is the most underrated 2D Zelda game in my opinion, maybe even more than the Oracle games, because it doesn't really get much attention, but it's a very good game. It's kind of a short game, but it takes a really cool concept of just shrinking and using that to solve puzzles, and has a lot of unique characters. Like, this takes place early on in the Zelda timeline. I really love the GBA graphics, so this isn't a game I think absolutely needs a remake. This is, again, a game that you could play on Switch. It's a game that still looks great. I don't know, I wouldn't mind getting it. I wouldn't mind getting a remake of it, just maybe adding some new quality of life features, giving it modern graphics, and just calling it a day. Like, that would be fine for this, but if I'm being honest, I don't think it needs a remake that much. I think the original is still more than playable, still looks great, but I wouldn't complain about it either. Now, 2 games I want to group together, Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass. I've actually thought about this for a while. So these are not the best Zelda games. They're fine, they're good games, especially Spirit Tracks I think is a very solid game. Some of the issues that they have are kind of Nintendo's fault. Like, the controls on these are just like not the worst thing ever, but just very unnecessary, where you use the stylus for pretty much everything. It's just a downgrade from traditional controls, so obviously a remake would fix that. Like, these games don't look good now. Like, they probably look the worst in my opinion out of almost all the Zelda games. Like, Minish Cap may be a simpler looking game, but I just like how it looks better. Like, the DS graphics, I love the DS. It was my first console, but the graphics have shown their age. So that's not something that keeps me from playing these games. It's not something that keeps me from enjoying these games. But especially with the extremely low resolution, it looks pretty rough today. It controls rough. The scope is very limited. Honestly, I think like a remastered collection of these might work instead of Nintendo just allocating resources to fully remake them. Like, give them traditional controls, up the resolution, maybe make the Temple of the Ocean King in Phantom Hourglass more bearable, and then you have a pretty good collection there. Just would be interesting to see like what they do for this, because those are major changes. Like, completely changing the controls is a major overhaul, but we did see it with Skyward Sword. There was initially just the motion controls for the Wii version, and then the better controls for the Switch. But even on the Switch, I don't particularly like the controls for Skyward Sword, so I don't know how it would be on the Switch. But I don't think Nintendo's in a rush to remake or remaster these. A Link Between Worlds does not need it. Looks perfectly fine, plays perfectly fine. Maybe the best 2D Zelda game in my opinion. I think if this game was literally just ported to Switch, all we would need. Just give people a way to play this on the Switch. I honestly, like, you don't even really need a whole graphical overhaul, because I think it still looks pretty good for a 3DS game. Literally just up the resolution, and it's all good. But since there is no 3DS on Nintendo Switch Online, it would take a remaster or port of some kind. I don't think we would get this soon, but would be cool to have, just because the 3DS has become harder and harder for people who don't have it to get into it. And I'm always for giving people a chance to play these games on newer hardware. And for the last game, Triforce Heroes. No, this does not need a remake. Not a very good game. I had fun with it when it first came out, all the way back in 2015. But I mean, it's barely feels like a Zelda game. It feels more like a spin-off, but it technically is main series. If you're a big Zelda fan and you get a chance to play this, like if you have two people who want to play this with you, I think you'll have a good time, but I just can't imagine Nintendo is ever gonna remake this game. Unless they have 3DS Switch Online at some point, I don't think we're ever gonna see this game back. And I believe that's all the games I wanted to cover. I just want to talk a little bit about these. With Zelda's 40th anniversary being this year now, it already came and went with not even an announcement from Nintendo, so there's a good chance they just don't do anything for it. But I feel like a remake is the most likely choice, because I don't think there's any games they're gonna really remaster, except maybe Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks at some point, but like I don't think that would be their main focus for now. Like I feel like a remake at this point makes more sense, like to hold Zelda fans over, give something for the 40th anniversary, because we're probably not getting a new 3D Zelda for at least another 2 to 3 years. Probably not getting a 2D Zelda for a few years too. So I could definitely see a remake coming soon, and I just want to talk about all the potential candidates for a remake, and if I think they're a good idea, what I think it could be like. Let me know, what do you want to see remade from the Zelda series? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe.